Today we are going to be talking about rotations. In order to talk about these rotations, we're going to have to do a little quick review here. Now here I have like a blank graph. I'm going to label some parts of it just to remind you that this is quadrant 1. In quadrant 1, both x's and y's are positive. I'm going to the left. Here is quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, x's are negative, y's are positive. I'm going to rewrite that Q because it is definitely bothering me. Okay, here is quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, both x's and y's are negative. And lastly, we have quadrant 4, where x's are positive, y's are negative. I like having this little image drawn out or there just as I'm solving things that involve rotations. I'm a visual learner. This makes it way easier for me to understand. Notice that I labeled the quadrants in a counterclockwise direction. So whenever we have positive degrees, we're opening towards the, we're following the way the quadrants are, so we're going in a counterclockwise direction. Okay. Now, let's say we have a point, we are rotating a point, let's call it 3, 2. Actually, I'm going to move it into the graph. I'm going to just make it a little smaller. I'm going to rotate 3, 2 all around the graph. And then we're going to talk about that. We'll see the patterns there. So obviously this is not exact, but in this quadrant we have a 3, 2. When I rotate it into the quadrant 2, it becomes negative 2, 3. When I rotate it into quadrant 3, it becomes negative 3, negative 2. And in quadrant 4, positive 3, positive 2, negative 3. My bad. Positive 2, negative 3. Okay. So notice, my signs are the way they're supposed to be, how I've written them in purple, the positives and negatives. And if you notice, we're dealing with 2's and 3's this whole time. With each 90-degree turn, you should notice that my 2's and 3's are flip-flopping. So when we go 90 degrees, we switch places of the 2 and the 3, those x's and y's. 180, they stay the same. 270 degrees, that's 3 turns. We'll be switching them as well. Okay. All right. On that note, let's do a couple of them. I'm going to move this over here. Let's see, can I make you a little smaller? No? Give me a moment. I'm just going to give this a try. I'm not sure if this will work yet. Oh, wow! Look at that! I'm way too amused, but that's okay. I'm going to make this graph a little smaller too, so we have some more space and we're able to keep our image in our line of view. Okay. Now, on my purple image, I'm going to erase all of those 3's and 2's just so it's easier to work with. Okay, so let's begin with a rotation. Let's pick a different color. Rotation of 90 degrees about the origin of PQRS. And don't worry, I will give you the originals for PQ, R, and S. The original point P, the original Q, the original R, and of course the original S. And now that I know I can make this smaller, I am going to play with this. Oh yes, I am. Oh yes, I am. I'm going to move that a little, and then I'm going to make it smaller. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Okie dokie. I need to erase that parenthesis that did not move with us. Oh, it's so great. Okay, so we are moving 90 degrees. That means we're switching. Okay, let's use orange. Okay, P prime. I'm going to switch 1 and 1. Okay, well, I switched 1 and 1. Still 1 and 1. 1, 1 exists in quadrant 1. So if I move 90 degrees, it ends up in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, my x's are negative. So I'm going to draw in a negative for my x. Q prime. 90 degrees, we switch 3 and 3. Same thing. 3, 3 is in quadrant 1. Moving 90 degrees, we end up in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, the x's are negative. Bam. All right, R prime. I switch them because it's 90 degrees. R existed in quadrant 1. Moving to quadrant 2, x's are negative. If it'll draw a negative. There we go. And lastly, we have S prime. Switch the 0 and the 3. I'm going to scroll a bit. Okay. 3, 0 exists right here. So I'm going to move it over here. 0 can't be negative, so 0, 3 stays 0, 3. Okay, and we're done. And I get to make this smaller since we're done with it. Oh, gonna try that again because clearly that didn't work. One more time, one more time, one more time, one more time. Okay. Oh, this is so great. This is so cool. Alright, make you smaller, smaller, smaller. And we'll move you up here because we're done with it. Okay, alright, I'm calm. I'm okay. I'm calm. Next, let's rotate something. Let's do 270 degrees. Why not? Let's use some different colors. Let's go to the yellows and greens. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to rotate something 270 degrees about the origin. And I'm going to, let's do FGI. FGHI. Okay. The original points to FGHI will be as follows. Excuse me. F, I'm going to make it negative 3, 2. G will be negative 3, negative 1. H, negative 1, negative 1. And finally, letter I, which is 0, 1. Okay, we're going to be rotating this guy 270 degrees. When we rotate 270, we need to switch the numbers. So the 2 will go here, the 3 there. Now negative 3, positive 2, is in the second quadrant. So let's move it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. We end up in quadrant 1. They're both positive. G prime. I switch the numbers because it's 270 degrees. Negative 3, negative 1 was right here. Let's move 270 degrees. That's 3 quadrants. 1, 2, 3. we end up in quadrant 2, which means our x is negative. H prime. Again, switching 1 and 1, silly, but there it is, 1 and 1. Negative 1 also exists in quadrant 3. So when I move it 1, 2, 3 quadrants to get 270 degrees, our x ends up negative. Whoops, my badness. Let's move you back over. There we go. Okay, let's finish up with I prime. Once again, we switch the numbers because it's 270 degrees. 0, 1 is right here in between first and second quadrant. Let's move 270 degrees. 1, 2, 3. We end up on this line where both x's and y's are positive. Well, y is 0, but x is positive. So I is 1, 0. Let's make this guy smaller. Because we can. Why not? It's great. Still way too excited for this, but you know what? Whatever. I'm even gonna move this first problem over. It's all gonna be in one spot. It's gonna be beautiful. Oh, wow, look at that. Look at all that. All right, well, that's about it. The only difference when we're doing 180 degrees is we're not going to flip-flop the numbers. They're going to stay just the same, and we're only going to pay attention to the signs depending on the quadrants that they end up in. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. Please feel free to ask me any questions you have, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.